The sun dipped below the jagged peaks of the remote mountain range, casting a golden glow over the snow-covered slopes. From the base camp, the climbing team paused to admire the view, shadows stretching long and dark across the glaciers. It was their second week in the Himalayas, and despite grueling conditions, they were determined to summit a peak that had seen only a handful of successful climbs. As the last rays of sunlight faded, a strange shape appeared on the summit above them. At first, it seemed like an ordinary shadow, long and sharp against the snow. But as the light dimmed further, the shadow began to shift, standing out starkly against the pale twilight. "What is that?" Raj, the team leader, muttered, adjusting his binoculars. The shape was massive, humanoid in form, but impossibly large. Broad shoulders and a hunched posture gave it a menacing silhouette. As the climbers watched, the shadow seemed to move, not with the natural sway of wind or the shifting of snow, but with deliberate steps along the ridge. "Could be another climber," a teammate suggested, though his voice betrayed doubt. No one else was known to be attempting the peak, and the figure's scale made it seem unlikely. They decided to investigate. At dawn, they packed their gear and began the grueling climb toward the ridge where the figure had been seen. The journey was punishing, with icy winds battering their faces and snowfields hiding crevasses beneath a deceptively smooth surface. When they reached the ridge, there were no signs of life, yet the area felt strange. An eerie silence surrounded them. The usual sounds of the mountain, wind whistling through crags, the distant rumble of avalanches. Then they saw it. Just ahead, carved into the ice, was an enormous footprint. It was humanoid, but far larger than any humans, with deep grooves that suggested immense weight. "It could be natural erosion," Raj said, though he didn't sound convinced. As they pressed onward, more strange phenomena appeared. They found claw marks etched into the rocks, arranged in patterns that seemed deliberate. A climbing axe, old and rusted, was embedded in the ice as though thrust there with incredible force. Nearby, they discovered a weathered tent, its fabric shredded, though the snow inside showed no signs of a struggle or movement. Nightfall came quickly on the mountain, and the team set up camp under the shelter of a rocky overhang. As darkness enveloped them, the wind carried a low, mournful howl. It wasn't the usual wail of wind through the peaks. This was deeper, resonant, and filled with an unnatural sorrow. Raj emerged from his tent, scanning the ridge with his headlamp. At first, he saw nothing but darkness. Then, in the distance, two faint lights appeared. They weren't headlamps or stars. They were low to the ground and unblinking, like eyes reflecting the faint moonlight. The lights moved slowly toward the camp, pausing every few steps, as if assessing the intruders. Raj called out to his team, but before anyone could react, the lights blinked out, leaving only the vast emptiness of the mountain. The next morning, one of their teammates, Arun, was gone. His sleeping bag lay open, undisturbed, and his climbing gear remained untouched. They searched for hours, calling his name, but there were no tracks leading away from the camp. The snow was pristine, as if he had simply vanished. As the days passed, the team became increasingly unnerved. They found more signs of the shadowy figure, fresh claw marks, overturned rocks, and more footprints that appeared to circle their camp. On the fifth day, they decided to descend, but the mountain seemed to resist their escape. Paths they had memorized became unfamiliar, and landmarks they swore they'd passed vanished without a trace. At one point, Raj found himself standing on the ridge they had climbed days earlier, though he hadn't turned back. When they finally reached the base camp, they were battered and shaken. Aaron's disappearance weighed heavily on them, and the strange events they'd experienced left them unable to explain what had happened. Locals in the nearby village listened intently as they recounted their story, nodding knowingly. "The shadow," an elder said gravely. "It appears to those who disturb the mountain. It watches, it follows, and when it chooses, it takes." Raj tried to dismiss it as superstition, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that they had been watched the entire time. Months later, he would find claw marks on his climbing boots, marks that hadn't been there before the expedition. To this day, no one has returned to that peak. On clear nights, from the valley below, villagers claim they can still see the shadow, standing tall and still, a sentinel on the summit. It doesn't move until someone dares to approach, and when it does, they are never seen again.